Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. The entire crypto market took a bit of a dive today, prompting one popular XRP chart analyst to say, and I quote, "We are at breakdown levels," end quote. And so I'm going to share with you perspectives from a number of popular chart analysts who have a great track record. And I'll just tell you this at the outset. Although it is the case that a lot of analysts believe, at least to some degree, even if the conviction isn't high, that what's most probable is that before we see this entire market rip to the upside, before we see XRP finally enter price discovery for the first time in 7 years in melting faces, that we do see a pullback. It could put Bitcoin potentially into the 90,000s, could put XRP for a brief moment in time below $2, a buck 80, some think even a little bit lower. But there are also it seems about an equivalent number of analysts that I follow that think, at least by a little bit, perhaps it's more probable that the low is in, and perhaps that was today, and then we just see a move to the upside. And so, ask a different analyst within the sample of analysts that I follow, get a slightly different answer. But I'm not seeing, mostly anyway, tremendously strong conviction that we have to tank first or we have to go to the upside first. It's a lot of indecisive, and a lot of analysts acknowledging, usually you do go a bit lower before you see this, and some saying, okay, yeah, you do, but the worst, maybe we've seen enough of a dip and this is it. So the truth of the matter is we don't know what's going to happen. We just have to live through it, and we're going to find out together. And that's okay, actually, because sometimes there's not sufficient information in the charts to have strong conviction about what the most probable short-term move is. Sometimes I don't know is the real answer. That's the truth of it. And then when I find that these analysts that I follow almost all believe the same thing, they are almost always right. But on the very short term, I'm not seeing strong conviction of them. So that being said, let's talk about how bad things can get and then how great they'll get, even if they get bad first. Because I will tell you this, none of the analysts that I follow think that this cycle's over. Literally zero of them. They all believe that even if we have a pullback, that's just going to so perfectly set us up for Bitcoin to go on its final parabolic run and XRP to follow. And I can live with that. I don't know about you folks. I can happily live with that. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. As I record this video, it is 6:50 p.m. Central Time, Friday, June 20th, 2025. XRP is $2.12. Bitcoin is $103,427. But we had a dip. You might have noticed this today. It's quite obvious right here. Look at that. That bad boy just slammed down. So XRP got as low as $2.09, quickly rebounded. Same story for Bitcoin. Here's the 24-hour chart for Bitcoin. You can see at the same moment, slammed down. The whole market did this. And then it came back up. But XRP's rebound has actually been stronger than Bitcoin's, at least to this point. And this happened, it looked like it bottomed around 12:40 p.m. today. So not too terribly long ago. And as it bottomed, there was this post. This is at 12:39 p.m. from Watcher Guru. Just in, $200 million liquidated from the crypto market in the past 60 minutes. Folks, this is why you do not play with leverage. You do not need it in crypto. It's always been stunning to me that in a world that we actually live in, this world, it's the crypto world, where you can just invest and get thousands of percentages a game. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not enough. You need a multiplier on that? My God, some people are freaking insane. It's just a bit much, man. Leverage is ridiculous for regular people. I include myself in that group. Absolutely not. Nope, never. No interest whatsoever. I'll just take my life-changing wealth without risking getting liquidated. Thank you very much. So here's a post from Crypto Insight UK. And the market was tanking here. It's 12:19 p.m. And he simply wrote, "We are at breakdown levels, fam. Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP." And this is the XRP chart that he shared right here, noting that there's some liquidity below. We were inching towards it. We didn't get quite into this zone, but pretty damn close. And so then this afternoon, so this is after there had already been a bit of a recovery. So XRP had already popped. This is 3:07 p.m. So at that point, let's see XRP price is probably what? Let's call it, yeah, about back up to 213. So it went from down to 209 to maybe about $2.13. And so he saw it go down, almost get to this liquidity sweep. Then he saw it come back up. And so Crypto Insight UK, he's one of the analysts that's been saying, at least to some degree, thinks it's more probable that we do sweep those lows. And he saw that it popped back up. And he goes, "Come on, XRP, put us out of our misery for fuck's sake." He wrote FFS, but we know what that means. I was like, yeah, okay. I get it, man. And it still can happen here. Here's a post from chart analyst Zoom. Talking about XRP here, of course. He says, "I've been mentioning for weeks how..." Oh, actually, I want to mention this too. He posted this after the dip. This is at 2:04 p.m. Central, so we already saw the worst of it today, and then it popped back up a little bit. So he says, "I've been mentioning for weeks how a $1.90 to $2 liquidity sweep for XRP would be really nice to see. Why? It would grant XRP the momentum it needs to push high and satisfy smart money bears. Let's see if we get it soon. FYI, there's slightly more liquidity at $1.80 than $2, but a $2 sweep would be enough for momentum push-up." And so another analyst here recognizing effectively the same thing, there's a reasonable chance it does go to the downside, and if it happens, that's going to be the bottom, and then we're going to, in short order, rocket to the upside, which is why I'm going to keep screaming this as long as the analysts are saying, hey, this actually might happen. That way, if this happens, you don't have to be freaking out. In fact, there are some analysts that think you could wick down even lower than that. Here's one of them. This is chart analyst Casey Trades, XRP USD chart. And this is a post from this morning, still completely relevant, although I'll note it was about 2 hours before the crypto market today hit its local bottom. And so anyway, writes, the daily RSI trend line, which has been one of the clearest tools tracking this apex, is now breaking down. This leading indicator says a lot. Price has stalled. Volatility dried up. And now the pressure is building toward a release. That release is likely to target lower supports first. A sharp sweep to major support before we reverse. So I'll pause to note here. That is exactly in line with what I'm seeing from a lot of different chart analysts that I follow. And she says, the levels I've been tracking for weeks still stand. $2.01, $1.90, and $1.55. So folks, that's about the lowest possibility I've seen put out by any analyst that I follow. Not that it's being promised that it would happen, but even if so, you know that would be extremely short-lived. And because there's full expectation here. If this call is right, she believes that this is going to absolutely blast to the upside. Made that quite clear here. So, again, it writes, until XRP breaks and holds above $3, these supports remain in play. Do not let your emotions trick you into thinking this drop is weakness. It's how the market gathers the energy for a breakout. This is where major moves start. A quick flush, and then lift off. If XRP hits one of these support levels cleanly, I'll be watching for a sharp V-shaped recovery that would signal the market found its pivot. But if we get close to support and stall or bounce early, that likely sets up one final exhausted wave down before the real reversal. Either way, this move helps us zero in on which level the market is targeting for ignition. And that's the key. The algos are testing reactions, and they'll keep probing until they get to the momentum thereafter. So, still a positive message in the end, even if we have to go a little bit lower. Very similar message from the blockchain backer. I'm sure many of you caught his video from this morning, and if you want the full breakdown, he consistently does a great job in great detail articulating why he believes what he believes. But I just want to note a few key takeaways because it's perfectly in line with what I keep seeing from a ton of other reputable analysts. And so the blockchain backer believes we are in a very advanced stage of the current chart progression. You made that very clear. And, it continues to note that normally what happens in situations such as what we find ourselves in right now, Bitcoin would have a final big crash. And he gave actually multiple examples of this happen in the past, similar situations. And in this instance, if we do get that final capitulation event, that could send Bitcoin to the $95,000 to $98,000 region, which he had talked about before, which, of course, that could cause XRP again to temporarily break down below $2. But he also doesn't see that as the end of the world if it happens. That would be the final move, in all likelihood, that shakes people out, and then a reversal to the upside would occur. So you can see it's the same thing I keep seeing from reputable chart analysts out here. But, of course, there's no way to know exactly how long this breakdown could take to occur, if indeed it's going to happen at all, which isn't guaranteed, as he acknowledged. And actually, to illustrate this point, the blockchain backer said, it could happen over the next day or two, or it could be 3 weeks from now. So, you could ask, what would cause the blockchain backer to think, no, we won't see this final capitulation event? What would convince him that actually the low is it? And he said if Bitcoin broke upward to another new all-time high, that would be enough for him to say, okay, we're not going lower, and we can proceed upward from here. Because that doesn't normally happen. So if it happened there, it'd be like, okay. But again, he showed tons of past examples proving that normally, in situations similar to this, we do first see a breakdown before we can get out of the range-bound price action. Here's a post from Crypto Cowboy. He was asking a question to chart analyst Credible Crypto. The question is as follows. Is your target for XRP, or he means has, he wrote is, but has your target for XRP been met? Or are you still waiting for something between $1.95 to $2.02? Incredible Crypto responded with the following. No, still looking for a bit lower on XRP, as my downside target on it hasn't been met yet. Downside targets have been met on some other alts. And I will note that he said this at 1:14 p.m. So this is, call it about 35 minutes after XRP bottomed today along with the rest of the market. So even after, he's like, nah, that wasn't enough. And he's been warning about this. I mean, here's what he had to say about Bitcoin. Take a look at this. This is at 12:40. So this would have been right when Bitcoin was at its local bottom today. And this is interesting because he what I just shared with you, what he wrote about XRP was after this post from on Bitcoin. So this is interesting. Check this out. He wrote, here we go. Range lows finally tagged. If this is a triple tap base forming, then the upper green zone should hold and we should reverse here shortly. I've longed a bit of Bitcoin here for the first time in weeks, as if an attempt is going to be made to hold these levels, then it should happen here at range lows. Lose this, and we eye up the second green zone at $94,000 to $98,000. Either way, no cause for concern. Either pullback depth is technically healthy. If you want more context, you can watch his YouTube video, and I've checked that out. He also consistently goes into tremendous detail, so there's no question as to why he believes what he believes and why he's arguing what he's arguing. So, but again, another key takeaway. If it goes lower, and he doesn't have high conviction seemingly either way, not particularly high anyway, even if it happens, doesn't matter. Market's still going to rip to the upside. That's basically how everyone feels that I'm tracking here, And here's a post from X-Force Global. He said, Bitcoin, if I had to choose between the two, bullish 51%, bearish 49%, it's that close. Okay, now there he's talking in the short term, and this just illustrates what I'm sharing with you. If he made him pick, okay, are we going to see something bullish in the short term or bearish? He leans bullish, but barely. This is what I keep seeing. There's not strong conviction from the vast majority of analysts that I follow. They may tell you which way they lean, whether they're a little more bullish or a little more bearish in the very short term, but it's not high conviction. So I look at this, and I know when analysts typically behave like this, it's a flip a coin, man, as far as what's going to happen in the short term. But then he wrote in a follow-up post to this, macro, 100% bullish, 0% bearish. So that part actually is in line. That's in line with every single analyst that I follow. I mean, I don't think there are any exceptions, unless there's somebody I'm not thinking of that maybe they've escaped my mind and I haven't looked to see what they had to say in recent days. I'm pretty sure it's all of them though. So I'm feeling great about this regardless. And on top of that, historic precedent should have us believe that we're going to rip way higher. And there are other reasons that I keep talking about too, like global liquidity increasing. So what, businesses, institutions, and people in general, they just have all of this additional money at hand as global liquidity has been increasing recently, and they're not going to take any of that and invest it in stuff, risk on assets in the stock market, into crypto. Really, they're not? For the first time in history, they're just not going to. Okay. Yeah, I doubt that. I think that they're going to do it. I'm pretty sure they're going to do it. We'll just see. Nobody knows for sure exactly what the timing's going to be, but it just makes all the sense in the world to be optimistic here. So look, by the time you're watching this, who knows what the hell the price is. Could have recovered a bit. Maybe it's tanking even further. My message is that, like, I just don't think it makes sense to be anything other than excited either way. Because even if it's a pullback, then finally we're that much closer structurally to getting to the point where we can rip to the upside. So even then I'll still be excited. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just a waiting game. That's just what it is to invest. It tortures you, but it's well worth it if it's crypto. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.